Hello there. Hi there, South and East. It's a pleasure to be here with so many Key Clubbers from my home turf, and I hope you're having a good time. My name is Alice Lee. I'm serving as your district secretary, and I'll be moderating this portion of today's program. We've brought to you 4 amazing Key Club alumni today to participate in the Key Club Alumni Open Panel Discussion. This panel aims to allow you to connect with these 4 extraordinary individuals, learn more about the Key Club experience, and inspire you to continue down the path of servant leadership throughout your high school career and ultimately your life. We hope that you'll be able to take away some valuable anecdotes from this portion of the program. And with that, I'd like to introduce our alumni. So Tina is having technical difficulties, so she will join us soon. But from Division 65, we have Tina Chow, a Westview High School graduate and a current student at Seattle University for Business Analytics and Finance. She hopes to work as a company analyst or product manager. Tina has served as Division 65's Lieutenant Governor and remains to this day a role model for many, inspiring those around her to pursue leadership and serve. From Division 32, we have JoJo Saunders, who served as the Pacific Northwest District Editor and later as an international trustee. JoJo graduated from Kentridge High School and is currently at the University of Washington, majoring in informatics, and hopes to work in informatics and product design. JoJo's graphics have left a lasting impression on our district, which you can find pieces of if you look closely enough. From Division 70, we have Brandon Orrick, who served as Division 70's Lieutenant Governor, as the Pacific Northwest District Secretary, and as an international trustee. Brandon graduated from Molalla High School and will be attending the University of Oregon to study business administration and political science. Brandon's outstanding enthusiasm for Key Club at all levels continues to inspire many to follow in his footsteps. From Division 32, we have Justin England, a Kentwood High School graduate who served as Division 32's Lieutenant Governor and as the Pacific Northwest's Governor. Justin will be attending the University of Washington to study political economy this year, and you may also continue to see him as he serves as our Strategic Planning Committee Chair. Justin's dedication to Key Club goes to show that your time as a servant leader is never truly over. Please give our alumni panelists a warm welcome in the chat and wave your spirit fingers. Panelists, you may unmute your microphones when you speak and participate freely in answering the questions. The first question, that we have is, what are you most proud of from your term? We can start off with Tina and move in the order that you were presented in.
Hi guys, my name is Tina, and what I'm the most proud of my term, I would say that during my term, both of my divisions had to merge, and so it was like I was really anxious to see like how that would go and see like how everyone would get along and stuff, but towards the end of my term, like it was super successful. Like we were merged into one division, so yeah, definitely I would say that was my most proudest accomplishment.
And from JoJo?
For me, my proudest accomplishment, one of the big ones was during my editor term that I just got through it. I had a huge imposter syndrome once I became a district editor because I'd never done a newsletter in my life. So I was really scared that I was going to screw up, I wasn't going to do it right. But in that, I also used that as the ability to use what I was passionate about. I never made a newsletter, but I made videos all throughout my life. So that was something that I tried to contribute to and put my little spin on it. So for all of the members in here, you don't have to follow the person behind you exactly the way they did the thing they did. This is your chance to do something that's unique to you and put your own little spin on it. So it's definitely one of the most proudest things that I was able to do, at least.
And from Brandon?
I would say that my proudest moment probably happened during my term as district secretary. I would say that I wasn't necessarily the most like organized person. And I don't think anyone would have looked at me and said like, oh yeah, like you're totally the secretary type. Like I was not that person. I wasn't, secretary is very analytical and like a lot of background work, time consuming, and that just wasn't really my style. But when I went into it, I had lost, well, let me just start off by saying I'd lost running for governor twice throughout my 4 years of Key Club. So I think that's something to take note of too. Like I'm proud of the fact that I stayed with it and like, you know, I kept going regardless of losses, and I saw that as potential rather than a negative thing. But as secretary, I really grew in the areas of my life that I thought I was just like incapable of. You know, like organization, all that kind of stuff I thought was just not my thing, was just skills I actually needed to focus on and actually put in the work to learn and practice. And through that experience, I, you know, became super organized and had a whole different mindset on how to look at like spreadsheets and like Google Drive, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's what I would say.
And finally, Justin.
I think that my single proudest accomplishment from when I was in Key Club was from when I was a lieutenant governor. I worked for about 6 months on a project for chartering a club. And at the end of that, we got the club successfully started. It had a huge payout, massive amount of work that we had to put in. But at the end of the day, we were able to bring Key Club into a new community. We were able to expose new students to new opportunities that they hadn't previously had in their school. And ultimately, we created a really supportive, engaging, and spirited environment for those students at that new club. So I think that that's the biggest example of something where the effort and work that I put in really paid off in a huge way at the end of my project.
Our next question is, what would you do differently during your term if you had the chance to? And we'll move in the same order as we just did.
Something that I really wanted to do differently during my term as lieutenant governor is just honestly wanting to know like more people within like my division. I wish I had the chance to like build like a deeper connection with like each individual, but you know, there's like only so much time, and I feel like I did the best that I could. But honestly, if it were to go back, that was something I would do.
Trying to think, there's a lot. It was a long time ago. I think one thing, and this is just something that I think everybody on the panel can agree on, is that as you climb higher in the leadership status, it's very easy to move away from service. So I think one thing that I wish I was able to do more was just connect with my home club. Like I started doing Rising Start, I was on the international board. There was like a huge disconnect that I wish I was able to go back more. And then the other thing is just learn to play the long game. Sometimes it's not about seeing direct results of what you want to accomplish. Sometimes it's more better to lay the foundation of what you want to do, and then just make sure that the people that will take over after you will actually have the resources they need in order to do it correctly. So we're only here for 4 years max. And that's not a lot of time in the grand scheme of things, but the impact that you can have when you learn to be okay with letting go of that kind of control, I think helps a lot, and it helps make sure that you have a really long lasting change at the end of the day.
I would honestly agree with Jojo on that one. Being on the international board, it was a super big like disconnect from like my home club and like just the basic, you know, small service projects that you did throughout the year with your closest members. And, you know, that kind of like Key Club environment, like it kind of gets lost, and not a lot of focus is put on, you know, the community aspect within your own community. It's kind of like this broad thing where you're going to different states and doing projects at their board meetings and stuff, but then you come back and there's still that disconnect. So yeah, I would say that I would definitely have just put that little more energy into, you know, helping out with my own home club and, you know, focus on those relationships that I had in my own community.
I think that throughout all of my terms that I spent in Key Club, all 3 years that I spent as an officer, I was really caught up in the administrative aspect of things. So I was thinking, you know, when I was a club officer, how can I grow my club's membership? How can I get more people showing up to my meetings? When I was a lieutenant governor, I was thinking a lot about how I could improve my officer training materials, how I could, you know, maybe clear up some confusion amongst the officers and make their clubs run in a more effective way. And a similar thing when I was governor. But something that I really didn't consider until I was almost gone and out of my final term in Key Club is how I could use my position to make a lasting impact in my community. Because I think that one of the biggest things that we can do to make our organization more attractive to other people is to have impactful service events and to be able to spotlight that and show people the impact that you had as an individual and as a club in our organization. And so I wish that going back, I was a little bit smarter and more intentional about making sure that what I was doing was always rooted in the core purpose of serving my community and showing others that Key Club can have a really big impact, that young people can change the world or change their communities in meaningful ways.
The next question that we have is, how has your Key Club experience assisted you in a professional and personal setting?
Yeah, so serving as a lieutenant governor in high school, there was so many things that I had to juggle with among like other extracurricular activities. I felt like doing that. I felt like doing that has allowed me to be very well balanced in college, because like in college I'm also very like involved as well, and just being like very like professional. There's so many like professional skills that like Key Club has taught me, and so like learning how to communicate, for example. Yeah, I felt like those skills have definitely taught me a lot.
Yeah, just to echo Tina, like literally like Key Club is such a solid jumping off point when it comes to developing a lot of those foundational skills for like professional development, like knowing how to send a professional email, knowing how to work with a group of people, set up events that a bunch of people are going to go to. All of these things are what a lot of people are looking for, whether it's for your first job. If you go to a university, a lot of times, like I'm in a professional business fraternity, and through that, like you have to show a level of professionalism to the start. And just all those small things that you pick up through Key Club, whether it's working with people, whether it's learning to communicate with outside organizations, all of those things are incredibly valuable skills. And it just kind of sets you off, whether it's going for your first job, whether it's kind of like continuing your education. Yeah, it's very solid.
Yeah, I would definitely say that so I've been working jobs since I was 15. I started working at like a retirement home. And then I worked at, McDonald's, Taco Bell, Carl's Jr., all of that. And, but then I started to be able, started a job at a chiropractic clinic where I was working with like important documents and scheduling and all that kind of stuff and spreadsheets, that kind of thing. And now I just got hired as like a leasing manager. And basically all I do is phone calls, schedules, spreadsheets, helping people. And so I have this whole community that I look after. And all I can think about is how Key Club has prepared me so much for this stage in my life. And it's interesting how, I guess, fluid the knowledge and how the things you gain from Key Club are, because they apply to so many different aspects of life, whether it be your career or your personal relationships with others. Like all of that has significantly improved from my Key Club experience. And I don't know if I'd be where I'm at today. Actually, I know I wouldn't be where I'm at today without Key Club. I wouldn't know how to do all this stuff. So yeah, I think that's definitely how it's assisted me in my professional side, and also like my personal relationships and all that has been totally positive.
I think the Key Club has a lot to offer to everyone at every level of the organization. I think that we have, at the district level and international level, a more structured experience than someone at the club level might have. But I think that anyone who's in a position of leadership in Key Club has the opportunity to gain social skills, gain event management, experience working with groups or time management. There's so many different things that we can do in Key Club. And it's just a matter of being intentional with the way that you spend your time so that you can build those skills and then showcase it It's been really helpful for me whenever I am applying for colleges or applying for new jobs to be able to talk a little bit about my leadership experience in Key Club and a little bit about my experience handling DCMs or service projects or strategic planning at the district level. And so I'd really encourage you guys who are going through that application process or maybe looking for a new job or just need to be able to showcase some of those skills to think about what, you know, your most applicable and proud accomplishments from Key Club are, and then be able to explain and elaborate on that in a way that makes sense to other people.
Our next question is, what was Key Club's biggest impact on your lives?
For me, how I initially got involved in Key Club was freshman year. I was a very shy, timid person. I really didn't like public speaking at all. That just wasn't my thing. But from that, Key Club really helped me build my confidence. I was very I felt like I really grew as a person because of Key Club, with all the positions that I held over the years. And on top of that, I felt like I made a lot of forever friendships in Key Club as well. And so it's something I really value and cherish a lot.
Without a doubt, I would say that the biggest impact is definitely on the people. Originally, I was going to say it taught me to believe in myself, but then I realized that the reason that I learned to believe in myself was because of my LTG. And that was the reason I ran for editor. That's what kind of put me on a crash course to where I am today. Even if you don't continue in the Kiwanis family, it's okay. You still have a network of people who you can consider family. My best friend that I still am extremely close to, she was in Key Club and she was in LTG. A lot of people around my life are people some of my biggest mentors is Brian Egger. And he's still someone that I'm connected to this day. You'll be surprised how a lot of the friendships you're making now, even if you don't go to the same college, even if you don't go to the same town, you will still continue to have those bonds and they will be incredibly strong. And that kind of shows that not only was it a huge impact on me, but you also have to recognize that you have an amazing impact on other people, regardless of whatever position you have. It doesn't matter if you're international president or member, those hold the same accountability and they hold the same amount of value. So yeah, without a doubt, it has to be people.
I would say that I was just your typical annoying freshman that I don't know how to say this, but I was just not cool. I was just not it. And I just had I was just really loud all the time. And I just remember my freshman year, cause I ran for lieutenant governor, cause this is, ambitious freshman me, just going for it because I didn't care. And I became LTG, and then my whole world changed because I actually had to grow up. And this was huge for me because I definitely think that my turning point through, my, I don't know, young years, I guess, was definitely starting Key Club. And I think that it kind of shaped me into who I am. And that sounds cliche or whatever, but seriously, if you think about it, I ran for freshman LTG and I was with a bunch of juniors and seniors. For the next, 3 years, all I was with people who were older than me. And so all I heard about was, college and, all this seemed like grown-up stuff to me. I was not ready to think about college. I was not ready to do any of this stuff. So, coming into my senior year, I was oh my gosh, I know how to apply for college. I know how to do all this stuff. I know what the Common App is. And I know the college thing is one whole topic that I learned about. But in general, I had to mature because I was hanging out with juniors and seniors. They don't want to hang out with, a little freshman probably had just turned 15. So yeah, I think I learned from people who had more life experience than me, and I kind of grew up in that high school experience. So that's something that really, really impacted me.
For me, I learned a lot about leadership in Key Club, which is really vague because I feel like a lot of people would say the same thing. but I think that the biggest thing I learned about leadership is that it's not necessarily taking a set of duties or a set of to-do list items or responsibilities and then just carrying it out and completing it. It's thinking more critically about how you can make a fundamental improvement on a specific thing. It's thinking more clearly about the ways that you can work with the system to make it work better for you and the people that you're serving. Coming into my junior year, I dropped a lot of my extracurriculars just to focus in on Key Club, because I started high school out thinking that leadership was just, you know, completing a set of things that I needed to do, a pre-set list of responsibilities. And I kind of learned that having that sort of mentality about leadership wasn't really getting me anywhere. It wasn't helping me grow as an individual, and it wasn't really leading me to any type of specific accomplishment that made me feel proud of the time that I was spending in other clubs or doing other things throughout my first half of high school. And so I'm really glad that I took that opportunity to focus on Key Club my junior and senior year and make more intricate contributions to Pacific Northwest Key Club.
And lastly, what is one piece of advice you have for Key Clubbers planning their futures?
One piece of advice I'd tell all the Key Clubbers is that don't be afraid to go out of your comfort zone. Like, believe in yourself, because I feel like I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Key Club, honestly. Running for lieutenant governor was such a random thing, honestly. Like, I had no plans on doing it whatsoever, but if it wasn't for Julia Dayton, my outgoing lieutenant governor at the time, she pushed me to do it. Without her, I don't think that I'd learn all the skills that I have all the friends that I have. So yeah, like, don't be afraid to push yourself.
My one piece of advice for all of you is don't be afraid to change your mind. If you this might not help now, but it might help when you decide on what you want to do for a career. I thought I wanted to be a doctor for 6 years of my life. I got to UW, and day 2, I was like, I absolutely do not want to be a doctor. And I was losing my mind. But throughout my journey at UW, I've come to realize that you don't have to figure everything out right now. I know every motivational post will say you have to hustle, you have to have a startup by the time that you graduate, and none of that, the level of toxic productivity that you continue to see is something that you need to be very aware of. Use this time to figure out what you love, what you like doing, what you want to do, what you don't want to do. And if you think you wanted to do something and then you realize you don't, that's completely okay. That is what life is all about. Don't just silo yourself in because you told yourself when you were 16 that you were going to do X and instead you want to do Y. And this applies to everything, whether it's learning something new, whether it's having an opinion on something and wanting to change it. You yourself are not the opinions you hold. It's how you act when you learn that you have a different opinion. So yeah, learn to change your mind, or be okay with changing your mind.
So I say this every time someone asks me for a piece of advice from my Key Club experience, but it's something that I wish I would have heard. Don't be afraid of failure. And here's another cliche message, but I would say that the most growth I experienced in my Key Club 4 years was honestly losing elections twice. When I lost district governor the first time, obviously it's a heartbreaking experience. And luckily I was appointed to district secretary, for those of you who didn't know how that worked out. And then the next year when I ran for district governor, I kind of went in, with still not the mindset that failure was just meant that another door was open. So then when I lost again, it hurt twice as much. And I didn't know how to process losing and how to process that again. And I just wish that coming in, I would have had the experience that I had of losing, to understand that those experiences are honestly so important. And it's never a reason to not go for something in fear of losing, or in fear that you have more competition or something like that, like that's never a reason for you to not try. And that's just something I wish I knew, because when I lost district governor, like international was the door that opened up. And all along, I was meant to be district secretary. I was meant to have that experience of, growing and being able to impact in my own way the PNW district, and same with international trustee. So I definitely think that that's just one thing to consider if you're thinking about like running for something, applying for a job, or being a part of something like that that takes risk. Go for it and don't be afraid.
I think that my biggest piece of advice to Key Clubbers, whether you guys are planning to run for higher office or just trying to figure out your own personal path forward, even if you don't have any intention of running for a district board position, for example, I think that it's important to be intentional and authentic with the time that you're spending in our organization. We tend to get caught up in our goals for our club, whether that's growing membership or hitting a certain number of service hours or anything else that goes on within the Key Club sphere of things. But we oftentimes fail to attach our own personal aspirations to that. What do you want to get out of your experience? Do you want to be a better public speaker? Do you want to have better social skills or to be able to communicate in a group more effectively? What do you personally want to get out of your experience? What skill do you want to gain? What experience do you want to have? Because when you're able to attach those personal aspirations to the work that you do, it just motivates you to work harder. It gives you a reason to stay involved and engaged, and oftentimes it prevents you from dropping off or losing motivation, even when you're facing failure or hardships or difficulties achieving the goals that you set out originally. So being thoughtful about how you want to spend your time in this organization and how you want to leave this organization is probably the biggest piece of advice that I could give to any current Key Clubber.
Take notes, guys, because that's your life advice for the rest of your life now. We have 10 minutes now to move into an open Q&A session, so feel free to drop your questions in the chat and address them to a panelist if you wish. From Aaliyah, we have, has your experience from Key Club benefited you outside of it? And looks like this is for everyone. Jojo's nodding.
I can start at least. For sure. I never ended up continuing down like CKI and Kiwanis, but like definitely Key Club helped me learn how to work with people. And that helped me in college, because a lot of the things you continue to do are, you work with people all throughout your life. And here you might work with people with different personality types, different ideologies and how to approach something. Sometimes people will drive you up the wall and you need to learn how to handle that. And that just kind of amplifies once you go into college, once you go into the workforce. So yeah, for sure. Key Club has definitely helped in that capacity.
Do we want to do the next question, or?
If you have something to say, you can say it.
Okay. I kind of wanted to answer the one that Haley asked, would you go back and do everything all over again? I feel like Key Club was just like this world, this like fantasy world for me. Like I just like loved the community, and yes, it was so hard, but it was like everything to me for such a long time. And I would totally do it all over again. I don't know if everyone agrees with that, but because it is very difficult. I miss it. That's what I would say.
Actually, I think this is an interesting one for everyone else. Would you guys go back and do it all over again too?
I think so. I've kind of thought about this a little bit. Like a few weeks ago, I was laying in bed having like 2 a.m. thoughts, and I was thinking, if I could go back to 8th grade, knowing everything that I know right now, what would I have done differently? And I don't know, Key Club, it's like a really, really awesome experience, but I don't know if it's something that you could redo again and have the same experience with. I don't know. It's kind of like weird. It trips me out to think about it, but hands down, like, I'm glad that I had this experience. It was definitely the most growth. It was definitely the experience that I had in high school that had the most abundance of personal growth in it. And I think that if given the opportunity to do something equally impactful, whether that is doing Key Club over again or doing something else, then hands down, I'd take that opportunity.
Yeah, like everyone kind of said, like Key Club was really difficult and challenging, but I think it kind of pushed me in a position to grow. And so, like I said before, like I don't think I'd be anywhere near where I am today if it wasn't for Key Club. And so, yeah, if I had the chance to do it again, I would.
What I'm about to say, I have to word this very carefully. Kind of like Jess, I've been thinking about this. I would say no, because assuming that I would know exactly what I knew now. Because if that's the case, then no. Because I made a lot of mistakes during both my terms. I screwed up a lot. It's how it is. But in all those things, I learned very valuable lessons that I carried throughout my life that have changed my life and how I approach leadership, how I approach service. And I think if I just like went back and just did it knowing it's like, oh, don't do this mistake, actually make a 4th newsletter. Jessica, you should do that. I feel like I wouldn't learn as much. It would just be something that I would go through the motions. I'm incredibly thankful for the time that I had in Key Club. And it was an incredibly vital, like, developing point in my life. But yeah, I would definitely want to stay with the mistakes that I made because they did make me who I am today.
So looking through the chat, I think, what is your favorite memory or a memory that you will always remember is a popular question. So this one's for everyone. What is your favorite memory or one memory from Key Club that you will always remember?
I don't know if you guys are going to know what this is because no one from my home division is in here, but last week when I was at Key Club Day North, I said divisional yeehaw that we all did at DCON 2019. So that's probably my favorite memory, if any of you guys remember that.
I would have to choose between, in terms of like service, like, you know, down to the Key Club roots, I would say that my first DCM as LTG was throwing a birthday party at like a homeless shelter. And I think this really kickstarted my love for service and really got me like deep into the Key Club world. She was 9 years old. We threw a birthday party for her. And it was like a party and there was a bunch of kids and it was a homeless shelter and like, we bought tons of presents and we went all out and it was just a super cool experience. And it really opened my eyes to like the impact I could have no matter how small. Like I know that that person will probably remember that forever. So that in terms of service. And then I would say like just being on stage with Ingrid, Andy, and Julie during my time as like district secretary, like anytime we were all together, either like on the stage, in a meeting, all that kind of stuff, all very, very bubbly thoughts. I just miss that. And those were definitely some of the best memories I've ever had. So.
For me, one of my favorite memories about like serving as a lieutenant governor is honestly like all the board meetings we have. Like I know it's like really stressful and stuff, but one of my best friends, like Sean Pentrotwana, and I, like we always talk about like, oh, like I miss like going to the meetings and stuff, and I was like, yeah, like I miss that too. And so yeah, that's something that a memory that I really do like cherish a lot.
For me, this probably came during my international trustee time, seeing boards retire and watching how proud they were and how all the stress that they were carrying kind of washed away and they could just kind of like enjoy the time that they were able to have and leave everything on the stage. I think watching that happen, like having the privilege to watch that 3 times for 3 different districts, every time I saw it, that definitely reminded me why I was a trustee. It's not about being a trustee or an international officer is never about you. It is always about the people that you are serving. So getting to see that at the end, I think made everything worth it.
Our next question is, I'm getting lost in all of these questions. There's so many of them. As a leader, how do you encourage members to get involved and interact with others?
I would say that the only people want something out of it. Like you talk to like any high schooler and you have to have a reason for them to do it. Like, so whenever I go to like a club visit as LTG, and I would talk to people about possibly like running for club officer or going to the DCM that I was holding or anything like that, I would make sure to list out like why, what will you gain from this experience? Sometimes it was, you know, like we have here at this meeting, it's, you know, they're giving away merchandise and that kind of thing. There's always some kind of incentive, whether it is like educational or like creating an impact or meeting new people, and you kind of have to gauge who you're talking to. So if you're talking to someone who's obviously super social, then you're going to want to bring up, oh, there's going to be tons of people, it's going to be super fun. Or if you're talking to someone who's a little more introverted, maybe leave that part out and go over maybe some of the things they could learn, or whatever is the service project, focus on that and that kind of thing. So that is kind of how I would talk to like members and stuff about trying to get them to engage.
For me, I would say it's leading by example. How many of you have heard the phrase, hey, if you ever need anything, my door is always open? I'm sure almost all of you have heard that, but it assumes that people have the courage to walk through your door. And it's easy to say all these things about how we're always here for each other and we're inclusive, but at the end of the day, like, we just sit around hoping that someone will do it to us. So go up to the people that maybe are on the sidelines. Like, people, like, a good leader knows how to be empathetic to the people that follow them, as well as to understand that sometimes people feel like they aren't included, even though we say this is an inclusive space. And it is, as a member, as just like a human being, it's our duty to make sure that people around us feel included. So that can be just something as simple as sitting next to someone that doesn't have anybody to sit next to. You'll be surprised how much that can mean to someone. And once people feel heard, once people feel like they're included, you'll see this slow move and development of culture that people continue to participate in things that they feel heard and feel valued in. And that all starts, if no one's doing that, that's what I challenge you to do. Lead by example.
So our last question is, if you could tell your freshman self exactly 5 words, what would you say? Exactly 5. They're all counting. Let's give them a moment to count.
Can I ask for 6? Can I get 6?
We'll do 6, sure.
Okay, cool. Be who you want to be. I spent a lot of my life trying to be something that I thought other people wanted me to be. And I would say that I'm very fulfilled in life because I am living the life of, like, for example, my real name is not Jojo. My real name is William. Yeah, fun fact. You heard it here. And that I always think of William as the person like my parents wanted me to be, my peers wanted me to be. Jojo is who I am. And like, that's a nickname that I had all my life. I just want to point that out. But be who you want to be. That's what I tell myself.
Anyone else? Your 5 words. Also, Jojo, that was way more than 5 words.
I said 5 and then I explained it. That was the goal. It wasn't like.
I think mine would be everything's gonna be okay. Because I'm a really stressed out person who always likes to have my priorities set in place and always likes to have to-do lists and calendars. And I've kind of learned throughout quarantine that setting a bunch of goals for myself doesn't really work in the same way that I want it to work. That's not the most effective way for me to manage time. And so I think that knowing everything's going to be okay, it's all going to work out, would be a really good message for my freshman self to hear.
And Brandon and Tina.
I'll go first if that's okay. I think for me, my 5 words are one thing at a time. I felt like during my term as a lieutenant governor, I tried to balance like so many things on my plate, and it ends up like me like being like super stressed out, getting super anxious, and honestly, that's a piece of advice that I would definitely need to take one thing at a time because everything's gonna be okay at the end of the day. So yeah.
And finally, Brandon.
I would say, oh gosh, I can't count. Like, I don't know. Uh, I would basically say you're capable just like anyone else, but like I would choose 5 words of that. I don't know how to make that up. But I would just, because I always like compared myself, and that's something that I learned about. It's just like, oh, how could I like run against this person, or how can I be a part of a discussion with all these other, you know, seniors when they know what's going on. I still did it because, you know, freshman me was very out there, but I still like would second guess myself constantly. And I don't think I would tell myself to like stop doing that and stop being so like self-conscious about how old I was and how better everyone else was at everything. It did get me to push myself in an unhealthy way sometimes though. So yeah.
Tara says alums can do everything but count. That's all the time we have for today, and we'd like to thank our alumni for participating in today's panel, and we hope each of you take away new inspiration and use it to pursue greater heights with Key Club.
Hello everyone, and welcome back from lunch. We'll get just started in just a moment. I would now like to introduce Student Activation Coordinator Kellen Brewer to give his Thirst Project presentation. Kellen has previously spoken at District Convention and Key Club Days, and he assists Key Clubs in their efforts to fundraise for the Thirst Project all across the Pacific Northwest. I've worked with Kellen since my freshman year throughout my personal Thirst Project journey. He is an excellent friend and support system, and we appreciate all he has done to help Pacific Northwest Key Club successfully fundraise 6 wells in the past 2 years. Please wave your spirit hands to welcome Kellen.
Oh, what's up, my friends? Good afternoon. Kalia, thank you for that introduction. See, my video just popped up here. It's so good to see so many familiar faces. It's exciting, man. It's a Saturday afternoon, and we're all here coming from our respective homes from all over different parts of the region. And yeah, I just want to first and foremost say thank you guys for having me. Anytime I get an opportunity to speak to your district, I'm excited. So I love the energy on this Saturday. I'm going to share my screen here. Give me 1 second. I think my abilities are disabled to share, but once that's loaded, I'm going to share and talk to you guys about a few things. One is just the incredible relationship we've had with Thirst Project and PNW Key Club in the last 3 years now. It has been such an incredible journey. I'm super excited that we get to keep working with you guys in the year ahead. But on top of that, I want to talk about the weird and crazy year that we're having. I wish right now that we were all together in the same room, whether that's an auditorium or a classroom, getting to connect, meet one another, share stories. But nevertheless, as we're all aware of, we are limited to the virtual space. And although it's not ideal, I think there's a lot that we can take from it. And I want to share a little bit about what Thirst Project has been able to do in the last few months and how that's had a positive impact on so many things. So as you can see, I got my screen up here. I'm going to give presentation. Here we go. Perfect. Let me see a thumbs up if you can see this home screen. Okay, I love it. So many thumbs in the air. Cool. Well, as you guys know, we are on a mission right now at Thirst Project, and we are attempting to change the world one community at a time. And before I get into that, a little bit of just background and context on me. I've met so many of you, but there are some new faces I see as well. A little bit about my journey with Thirst Project, how I got involved. Funny enough, back in 2012, when I was a sophomore in high school, I sat in an auditorium. I heard a speaker on stage. He talked about the global water crisis. He talked about his mission to end it, his idea to create this movement of young people. And I remember just thinking, A, I had no idea there was a global water crisis that was this serious, and B, like, this is awesome, but I have no idea how that's actually going to work. And sure enough, that was Thirst Project's CEO and founder, Seth Maxwell, that came to my school when I was living in Tucson, Arizona. And I just remember that stir of emotion that I had learning about something like a water crisis, but feeling like as a young person, I didn't have a platform to actually like get involved and create meaningful change from where I was living in Arizona at the time. But sure enough, roughly 5 years later, when I moved on, I was in college, I sort of heard about this opportunity with Thirst Project. And I remember seeing the logo and reconnecting with the organization and realizing in that chunk of 5 to 6 years, Thirst Project had done all of these incredible things. Thirst Project had been responsible for, at the time, raising hundreds of thousands of young people to take action against the water crisis. And for me, it was like this aha moment where I realized, man, this idea has now blossomed into a movement. And that was kind of my second chance to get involved. I did not want to miss that opportunity. So in 2017, I became a road warrior for Thirst Project, which essentially meant for the entire year, for 2 semesters, I got to travel the country. I got to speak on behalf of Thirst Project, give presentations on a regular basis, sometimes at decons, sometimes at high schools, sometimes at colleges. And really the mission of that year was educating as many young people as possible about the global water crisis. I got to go to like 40 states too, which was just an awesome thing to check off my bucket list. But now I live and work full-time in Los Angeles at Thirst Project's headquarters. I'm one of our internal full-time staff members, and I have like the coolest job I think at Thirst Project because I literally get to work with students all over the world that want to lead initiatives and take action for Thirst Project. And most of you guys have heard me speak about Thirst Project. Some of you guys have spoken on behalf of Thirst Project about the water crisis, but man, I can't ever give a presentation without talking a little bit about the water crisis. And as you all know, our mission is to end the global water crisis, but it's also to empower young people to realize that you don't have to be older. You don't need to have a background in hydrology or a college degree to make a real tangible impact on the water crisis. And I've seen that in the last few years. Our movement has proved that. And every time I speak, I want to stress that. It's like there's no age limit on taking action and changing the world. And Thirst Project has proved that. The reality is, though, that right now on our planet, we still have over 600 million people that don't have access to basic, safe, clean drinking water. I can't emphasize that enough. And I've said it thousands of times. We talk about it anytime we're giving a presentation or speaking to a group of students. But even if you guys have heard that number, over 600 million people, the context of it, realizing that roughly 1 in 13 people on our planet right now do not have access to basic clean drinking water, it's pretty mind-blowing. And for me, it's an unsettling stat to hear, but the practical meaning, what that really leads to is that communities around the world, especially in rural areas, are being affected by droughts, but also having to rely on open, unprotected water sources that, as you can see in the sort of GIF that I'm playing, are a lot of times visibly contaminated, are sometimes dried up riverbeds or swamps or ponds. Really, whatever freestanding open water source is readily available, that becomes the water source for all of the daily needs of community members. So drinking, washing, cooking, cleaning, and it's truly mind-blowing to think that 1 in 13 people are still relying on unprotected sources like this. And it leads to so many different issues, but the cool thing about Thirst Project is that we truly are ending it. And I'm so proud of the work that we've done as a movement. I'm so proud of the students that have gotten involved to help us end it. In educating so many young people about the water crisis, we've seen incredible activation. We've seen students, man, hosting school-wide initiatives for clean water, sometimes dance marathons, sometimes like sports tournaments, but we've also seen entire communities and entire student populations get involved. And one of those that naturally will come up is PNW Key Club. But just to give you a little bit more context and actually show you guys the numbers, I think numbers also can say a lot. Over 400,000 people have received access to clean water, all because of students just like you guys all over the world since 2008. We funded over 3,000 water projects for communities in need in 13 different countries around the world. Most of our impact right now, if you look at Southern Africa, you'll see this little white dot here. And that country is the Kingdom of Eswatini. It's a really small country. As you guys know, you've been a part of helping us end the water crisis in Eswatini. We're getting so close, and a huge part of that is because of PNW. And I just want to hit this home really quick. In the last 2 years, in the water projects that you guys have funded, over 2,000 people have received access to clean water. You funded you funded 6 freshwater wells and have raised over $60,000. Seriously, look at those numbers, give your guys' selves a pat on the back, be so proud. Like, those numbers are huge, and it's something that we don't take lightly. The fact that we can work with a district of students that can mobilize and rally towards this issue and truly like epitomize our movement and what it's all about. So we're so proud of how far we've come. We're so proud to be working with you guys. But the reality is there's always room to improve. And last year, only half of all PNW districts, all PNW divisions, took action for thirst projects. So one thing we want to expand on is, man, if we have roughly half of divisions taking action, think about how many clubs maybe don't fully know about Thirst Project or haven't yet heard enough about our mission to really understand it. So one of the jobs that we have this year is how can we get more clubs and divisions knowing what Thirst Project's about, being part of this movement, and helping create this impact that is truly and literally speaking life-changing. Like, PNW Key Club has been responsible for changing lives, and there's always room to grow. I'm excited to tackle that. But we face a weird time right now, and this is what I really want to focus on today. But the elephant in the room is that we're all not in the same room. The crazy reality is that right now we are experiencing a year in which, man, it's unprecedented times, but it is very strange to get accustomed to virtual everything, right? Like the fact that we can't meet in person, we can't have club meetings that we're used to. Decon was canceled this year, like so much less in-person interaction than ever before. And the nature of Key Club being service-based, being about helping fellow brothers and sisters, finding ways to serve and give back to your community, whether locally or internationally, becomes especially hard when you're limited to the virtual space and have less in-person interaction. But on top of that, our mission at Thirst Project to end the water crisis is all about clean water and young people. And right now, amidst a global pandemic, clean water is more necessary and essential than ever before. Whenever we talk about solutions, we always hear about the need and importance of hydration, of washing your hands and your body regularly with soap and clean water to avoid the spread of bacteria, parasites, infectious diseases. And really for us, it's been this opportunity to realize how we can uphold our mission in difficult times. And the other thing is we all have a chance to improve. We have a chance to learn from a year that challenges us in new ways that we've never been challenged in before. And that's something I want to talk about. So if we look at, man, really the last 6 months at Thirst Project, there are really 2 big categories that have characterized our response to the impact and the outbreak of COVID-19. And we've adapted and we've pivoted. So the ways in which Thirst Project is adapted, which I think will be relevant to you guys for learning tools, is we've kept the same why. So the reason we exist is the same. We still are an organization that wants to empower young people and end the water crisis, but we've changed our how. Realizing that we can't do everything the same way, that we can't send speakers across the country to big events, expecting them to be able to speak and educate students. With those events not happening, we've had to change our how. So the way in which we've pivoted is we've set up virtual presentations like right now. We have new programs that help educate students about the water crisis without requiring an in-person component. And we've found ways to engage our audience and our network more than ever before. And that's something especially that's going to be relevant to Key Clubbers this year, is like finding ways to use this virtual time as an opportunity to engage in ways and levels that have never been done previously. And a little bit about staying connected. With Thirst Project, one of the things we asked about in the very beginning of this pandemic was how can we be there for our network and community amidst all this uncertainty? How can we still be a support system during a time that, man, is really stricken by being disconnected from each other? We realized there were 3 big things we wanted to emphasize: positivity, support, and opportunity. Positivity meaning our movement is vibrant, it's colorful. Hopefully you guys have seen this in working with Thirst Project and getting to represent us in your own communities, but we are all about positivity, uplifting language, imagery that reinforces positive ideas. But we're also about support. We love to be there for the students and the people in our network that take action. We always want to be a support system. And over the course of the last few months, we've really exceeded expectations, I think, in how we've just poured support out to the people that have supported our world, making sure they're okay as well. And the last chance, or the last sort of point of those 3 in staying connected with our audience has been opportunity. So it's been realizing that even though we're an organization that exists as a nonprofit, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't still push our mission forward, because there's a strange reality where so many people around the world, although that many of them have been impacted by the outbreak of COVID-19, so many people are looking for opportunity. They want to feel a sense of contribution and belonging. We don't want to feel like we're stuck in our homes with no way to contribute. We're looking for ways to get involved and take action. I think these 3 points are so big for you guys as Key Clubbers, because this year it's like, how can we remain positive? How can we retain uplifting energy and uplifting conversations to get us through these crazy times? How can we be there for club members and division leaders, supporting one another, offering assistance and guidance during this time? But last but not least, realizing that even though Key Club is a service organization by nature, it doesn't mean that we can't continue to serve in times when so many people are affected. In fact, people are looking for opportunities to get involved. So there's all the more reason to keep pushing forward right now. And a couple of just quick highlights that I wanted to talk about is, like I mentioned, we've been engaging students. We've been able to support our teams around the world. We've had study hall sessions. We've had live streams and virtual fundraising events. We've been doing new education programs. Previously, like I said, I was a road warrior where I traveled to 40 states. It's not really sustainable anymore. So we found ways to educate in the virtual space, and we're providing students and young people an opportunity to really be able to do something, because we don't want to lose sight of that and how important it is. And these are just practical applications. And the reality is, I think PNW has a lot of potential here too. Improving how we do things. We've provided more than just clean water, and we've supported everyone in our network. I think you guys can do the exact same. And the cool thing is, if you keep this in mind in the upcoming year, I think it'll help you a lot. And it's sort of this question of, how can you continue to accomplish the same goals that you've always set, maybe new goals that you're setting, but do so in a new way? Like I talked about earlier, it's about adaptation, it's about pivoting, even if it means temporarily changing your processes and your procedures, maybe what you're used to, and maybe what you've been used to as leaders for the last 2 or 3 years. Finding ways to do something differently can actually lead to more success maybe than ever before. How can you guys find new ways to engage club members, whether that's about Thirst Project or just general club procedures? Can you continue to fundraise virtually? One of the things that I saw was sent out kind of in the midday email, I think Thomas sent it out. It was a list of Thirst Project's favorite virtual fundraising ideas. So we've shared that. I want you guys to look through that, find stuff on there that looks interesting. See if you can do things in the virtual space that maybe you didn't even think about, and find creative ways to accomplish some of the same things that we've set out to do for the last few years, but also providing new learning opportunities. I think there's a rare chance that we have to all be present in the virtual space, since so many of us are on our computers more frequently than ever before. Travel is limited. We aren't able to do a lot of the outdoor activities that we're used to. So how can we use this opportunity to learn more than ever before and provide club members and divisions with new learning opportunities that they maybe wouldn't have gotten otherwise? And then actually setting up virtual events, following through on some of the ideas you have. As we can see right now, live streams and webinars are also great too, really good informational tools. But the main thing is, guys, think about these things. Improve how you collaborate, how you fundraise. Find ways to do that in the virtual space. Support everyone and being super mindful of the times. I told the group last week that, man, if we were pushing out a Thirst Project fundraiser right now, while so many communities in Washington and Oregon are actually being affected by major wildfires, man, it may come off as a little bit insensitive to what's going on. So really supporting everyone and being mindful of what's going on, and finding ways to be strategic about when you provide an opportunity to get involved for something like Thirst Project, but also being sensitive to what's happening in local communities and in your specific region. And above all, one thing I want to mention is just providing more than service. There are ways to provide more quote unquote service than just literally serving a community or going to a fundraising event. There are ways you can serve in just being a positive person and sharing your positive outlook and being there for one another and supporting each other during these crazy times. And I think that's just so, so important. It's helped us a ton. A quote that I'd love to share, I said it a bunch in the last 6 months especially, but amidst all of this, I truly believe that the biggest loss in the end is if we come out on the other side unchanged. I think this is true in all aspects of life, that if we spend so much time remotely, virtually, being limited to activities that we're used to, having to rewrite normal, if we don't change, if we don't learn from this, if we don't take it as an opportunity to grow, it would be a disservice to all of us. And hopefully this is an opportunity to see that we shouldn't be divided more than ever, but we should find commonalities with each other. We should work together towards issues like the water crisis, knowing that everybody deserves access to clean water. How can this be an opportunity to make that ubiquitous, to make sure everybody knows and cares about that? So my challenge to you guys, all of this is a long way of saying, what does this look like for you? Really take the time to reflect, not only as a member of Key Club, but as a leader at your school, in your club, in your community, as a supporter of organizations like Thirst Project and other initiatives. What does it look like for you personally? And how can you uphold a lot of these values? How can you adapt and pivot in your own personal life to make sure that we're growing, to make sure that we're coming out of this even stronger than ever before? So guys, we do need your help. We know that you're going to do amazing things this year, but if you're a member that's saying, man, I didn't get to do anything in the last 2 years, but I want to be more involved in Thirst Project, or I really care about this mission, I just don't know what to do, I've got a couple things for you. And the first one is a text-in code. If you're not texted into our mobile comments platform, it's super cool. Every month you get updates on things that are happening in Thirst Project's world, whether it's ways to get involved, awesome fundraising events, scholarship opportunities. So if you text the word THIRST to 97779, you're automatically in that on an ongoing basis. And you have a chance this year at winning a $1,000 scholarship that we're going to give out next summer. But you can also reach out to me. I think the cool thing about Thirst Project is there's not this wall between organization and Key Club, but in reality, we're here to help and support. So reach out to me if you have questions, if you want to get more involved, if you are trying to fundraise with your club or division and you need a little bit of help getting the ball rolling. I'm always free to help. My email is just kellen@thirstproject.org. And I could talk all day and I don't want to, so I'm going to pass it off to one of our newest members on our Thirst Project education team. We changed our Road Warrior program to a virtual program, and I would love to pass it over to former District Governor Justin. Justin, if you're there, I would love for you to share some words about your experience as a Thirst Project representative now.
Hey guys, bet you thought you were done with me, but you're not. So in case you missed out on the earlier section, my name's Justin England. I was the District Governor last year, and I have had the pleasure of working with Thirst Project now for about 3 years since it started as our district project. Under my first term on the district board. And so Thirst Project and PNW Key Club have had a really interesting relationship over the last few years. We've gotten really involved with fundraising for the Thirst Project, but also a lot of clubs have opted into working with some of their more educational resources, inviting Road Warriors to come present at their schools, working with PNW Key Club's existing fundraising resources to plan smarter for their clubs, and all different sorts of things. A few of us from the district have had the opportunity to go to the Legacy Summit throughout the last 2 years, whether you attended Pepperdine last year or online this year. Pretty cool educational opportunity, sort of like Thirst Project's version of our district convention, as well as a host of other Thirst Project programs that we have had the opportunity to get engaged with. And so one of my favorite things to do when I was in Key Club was to talk to other people, to provide training materials, educate others, and help other people get more involved with our organization. And so for me, it was a natural step up to get involved with Thirst Project's education team as a trailblazer, or as a Thirst Project ambassador, is what my official title is. So essentially what a Thirst Project ambassador is through this new Trailblazer program. It's really similar to the Road Warrior program if you are familiar with that. The key difference is that instead of sending pairs of students around the country to give presentations, we're just stationed in one area. And so my area is Washington State, and also by association PNW Key Club, just since I've worked with you guys so deeply before. My role is to provide about half-hour, 40-minute long educational presentations about the water crisis, help educate people how they can get involved with the Thirst Project, and then also provide any mentorship or additional resources as necessary so that you guys can have successful Thirst Project fundraisers. So I think that I'll be a really good resource for you guys this year, in addition to your district executive committee, your lieutenant governor, and your other club officers. a little bit about the background with PNW Key Club and the Thirst Project. So Ingrid and I, and now Kalia, have all chosen Thirst Project as our district project. That's one of the responsibilities that you have when you're a district governor. And I think that I can speak for all of us when there's a couple main reasons why we choose the Thirst Project. The first one is that their mission totally is applicable to our district, and it completely resonates with anyone who is able to understand. They have a really compelling mission, they have a really good purpose, and they can back it up with reasoning. They can explain how the Thirst Project can solve not just water scarcity, but also a host of other issues as they relate to women's equality, food insecurity, education, economic development, and so much more. Secondly, you can see the impact of the time and money that you give to the Thirst Project. Whether you are volunteering at a fundraiser for them, helping educate other people about the Thirst Project, or actually making a donation yourself, it's easy to understand where that's going. It's easy to understand that you're helping build a well in the Moyeni or Malalini region of Eswatini, or that $25 can provide a person with clean water for the rest of their life. It's not another organization where your money just goes directly into the void and you don't really understand what happens with it. And then also, Thirst Project is run by and for young people. It's an organization that sets out to activate high school aged students in making a global impact and changing the world. And so that combination of stuff has just continued to inspire us at the district level to continue working with Thirst Project year after year. And it's something that makes me so passionate about the organization and why I decided to take the step up this year and work with them. So over the last 3 years, a few key accomplishments. Kellen mentioned that we've impacted over 2,000 lives. We've raised over $60,000, and we've fully provided water to the Moyeni and Malay region in Eswatini. We've had countless resources created by our district's Thirst Project Committee, which Kalia chaired this year and Alyssa's chairing this year. We've done so much fundraising and had so many different types of events going on throughout the district. So something that I want to leave you with before I say goodbye for the rest of Key Club Day South and you guys don't see me for the rest of the day. School tour is active. I mentioned that my main role as an ambassador is to go around giving half-hour-ish long presentations, educating students about the water crisis, about Thirst Project, and about how they can get involved. If you are interested in having a presentation at your school, it doesn't necessarily have to be through Key Club. We also do entire school assemblies. We do classroom meetings. It can be virtually or in person. Please let me know. I'll drop my email in the chat. It's justin@thirstproject.org, and you can also connect with me on my social media outlets. So anyway, I hope to work with a couple of you guys this year, and thank you so much for having me.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Kellen, for such a truly amazing presentation and for Justin also speaking. My name is Jessica Lober, your district editor, and we'll now move on to our Thirst Project student leaders open panel discussion. I will be moderating this open panel.
Looks like Jess is frozen. Give us 1 second to bring her back.
As we wait for Jess to come back due to Wi-Fi issues, in the chat, Justin's dropped his socials, so make sure to catch that and bring him to your school, to your club, or wherever it may be so that he can give that really fantastic Thirst Project presentation.
All right, so I'm just going to take over as Jess gets her technical difficulties worked out. So, all right, give me 1 second. All right, so I would like to give a warm welcome to our student leader panelists for today. First, introducing Joseph, oh, I'm so sorry if I mispronounce your last name, Kaisenhofer from Camas High School in Division 44. He was the 2019 to 2020 club treasurer and now serves as the club president. Camas High School has raised $1,301 from fundraisers such as Camas High School's bake sale. Next, we have Mariana Hernandez Brito from Ephrata High School in Division 58. She serves as the 2020 to 2021 club president. Ephrata High School has raised $2,260 from fundraisers like homecoming paper links. Moving on, we have Division 64's Lieutenant Governor Roslyn Dye. Roslyn attends Lake Ridge High School. They have earned $200 so far from fundraising events such as sporting game concessions. Lastly, we have our very own District Governor Kalia Thornton. Kalia is the immediate past Lieutenant Governor of Division 48 and District Project Chair. Currently, she attends Coeur d'Alene High School. Her division has contributed $10,555.02 from fundraising events such as Taste of Coeur d'Alene. All right, is Jess back?
I'm gonna cut in here for a sec and say that we also have from Division 52, Lieutenant Governor Lauren Reed, who attends the River Academy and has raised $200 so far from fundraising events such as Valentine's Day babysitting.
Has Jess returned? Or shall we start with the questions?
Yeah, I'm back.
All right, Jess, you want to take over?
Yeah, okay. Just to pull it back up. Okay, and then, so we're going to start the open panel discussion, and according to how you were presented on the slides, we'll have you answer in that order. Okay, so the first one is, why did you decide to become a student leader for the Thirst Project? And I'll have Joseph start.
All right, hey everyone, I'm Joseph. So I decided to be a student leader for the Thirst Project because I believe it's really important that students have an opportunity to ask questions about what has worked for other clubs and really find new ways to fundraise, because the more success we have with these fundraisers, the more that we can help with the Thirst Project.
Awesome. Mariana, do you want to go next?
Yep. So I became a student leader for the Thirst Project because it's just an incredibly important thing that everyone deserves access to. Clean water is something that should be a human right and that everyone should have access to. And it's crazy that not everyone has access to clean water. Like, I could just go to the sink and get clean water easily. And so I find it something super important and something that I'm super passionate about.
I think that's amazing. Awesome. Lauren, would you like to go next?
Yes. So I decided to kind of become a student leader for the Thirst Project because last year when the Thirst Project Road Warrior team actually came and visited my school and gave their presentation, I felt like really connected to their message, and I wanted to do everything in my power to help fundraise for them to get their message out to fellow school members. And so I knew that when the opportunity arose this year to be a part of the Thirst Project community, I wanted to be more involved and advocate for their cause.
Oh, that's great. I love that. Roslyn, would you like to go?
Yeah, so for me, I think I've known about like the water crisis for a long time, but like it never hit me how like wide and serious the situation was and how many people were affected. So like when I first joined Key Club, like the only thing I really remembered was the Thirst Project because it stood out to me as so impactful, and like the fact that it only takes like $25 to provide someone for water for the rest of their life, that really stood out to me, and so I wanted to get involved to help.
I became a student leader for the Thirst Project just because, like Justin mentioned, myself and also the organization really align with Thirst Project and their mission to help end the global water crisis. And I liked that they were able to give me the opportunity as a young person to make change, because oftentimes high schoolers don't always have those opportunities. And I like that I was able to do something bigger for myself and for something bigger than myself.
Wow, I love that. That's awesome. I'll move on to the second question. It says, what is one of your fondest fundraising memories? I'll have Joseph go next.
Yeah, so I think one of the fondest fundraising memories that I can think of was the first day of the bake sale that we held at our school. We were all so nervous because we weren't sure if people were going to take interest in the cause and also like buy our baked goods. But we were extremely surprised because during lunch, kids would just come up and buy entire boxes of the goods that we had bought. And so it was really exciting to see that we were going to be successful with the fundraiser.
I love that. That's awesome. What kind of like bakery items?
It was a lot of cookies and brownies, so things that people could distribute to their lunch tables and stuff. So I think that's another way that encouraged people to just come up and buy some of our baked goods. It was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Okay, I'll have Mariana go next.
So my favorite one was through actually the Thirst Project fundraiser. We do paper links. So basically we take a loop of, like a strip of paper, and we staple it together to make a loop, and then we make a chain. And so we do that during some of our free periods, and our students volunteer to go in during those periods to go make them. I would be there as much as I could. And I really love that because we got to play music, and it was in a small room. So with 9,000 paper links in that small room, it was intense. And having the music play and just talking with your friends while your hand is cramping up, it's just a bonding moment.
That's awesome. That sounds like kind of like a coffee shop kind of experience. I'll have Lauren go now.
One of my fondest memories was actually on Valentine's Day, because our officers had gotten together and we had decided that we needed to do something kind of to give back to our school. And since our school is pretty small and everyone kind of knows everyone, we ended up doing a babysitting for the parents so that they could go off and have like a nice dinner. And we ended up raising a good chunk of money for the Thirst Project through that. And I just got to be around with friends, and we ended up watching Frozen, which was really fun. And so it was just a really great night for bonding and being able to give back to our school and the Thirst Project.
That sounds amazing. Frozen's really good to watch for babysitting. I'll have Roslyn go next.
So for us, our school likes to fundraise by working the concession stands for like school football games and basketball games and whatnot. And I went to one of them, and like for me that was really meaningful because we had like this tip jar out, and we wrote a note about what the Thirst Project was and stuff like that, and what Key Club was. And like a lot of parents and students were donating a lot when they read the message. And so that really was impactful for me, and like to know that like just by educating, like you can like mobilize so many people to be helping with this crisis.
Wow, that sounds like great exposure. I'll have Kalia go now.
I would say my fondest fundraising memory is definitely from the Taste of Coeur d'Alene, just because it's our biggest annual event that we often are able to connect with the most people. There are about 50,000 people who come to the event each year, and it's really enjoyable because we get to spend the entire weekend at our booth just collecting donations and talking with community members one-on-one about the global water crisis. And I really like the opportunity to connect with those people and have a personal conversation about the Thirst Project.
That's so wholesome. I love that. Okay, I'll move on to the third question. How have you adapted to remote and virtual fundraising? So how has your division or your high school club like uniquely adapted?
Yeah, so we haven't actually held any sort of virtual fundraiser yet, as you know, it's the beginning of the year. Right now we're trying to make sure that people know what's expected of them. But we are planning on holding a virtual fundraiser partnered with C's Candy during the holidays. So I think the most important aspect of adapting to remote and virtual fundraising is to identify what people will be willing to participate in a fundraiser and how do you appeal to them. So of course, since these are high school students, we are hoping that candy would be a great incentive to get people involved with a fundraiser. So it's just mostly promoting your fundraiser online, and yeah.
I love those business tactics, marketing ones. Those are good. Mariana?
Unfortunately, our club was shut down for COVID because of our school restrictions. So we can't hold any meetings or hold any events. So unfortunately, we won't be able to have anything until school returns. I'm pushing my members to look towards the district and to do things on their own, but I'm unsure of how effective that will be.
Awesome. I'll have Lauren go next.
It's definitely been an adjustment period, as it has been for everyone. And so like last year when we had started, when we just like COVID really hit and everything went virtual, we had some bigger fundraisers in the works, and then those ended up we weren't able to do them virtually, like they couldn't be crossed over, which was a little disappointing. But I'm hoping this year that all the different clubs and the presidents can really open up their eyes and take some, like, it's going to take a little bit of creativity, but I really do hope that they will be able to find and perform successful virtual fundraisers. But it's definitely been an adjustment.
I think that's good that both of you guys know that your clubs, you guys are being active without your clubs and still pushing to volunteer. I'll have Roslyn go next.
So I think one thing that might help is like considering like social media campaigns, like the Thirst Project Bingo Challenge, because that reaches a wide range of people, because most of us are on social media, and also just utilizing like skills of your members. So for example, like if someone's like they play an instrument or they can draw, like using that like to help you fundraise. Like for example, you can like hold like a mini concert and like have like, you know, charge a little for the admission ticket, or like customizing artwork for people. So and that can get people interested because that's something they like to do. And also just here, like, because it's been mentioned in the chat, I just want to highlight our amazing president, Ella, from our division. And she came up with the amazing idea of boba. And also, and her club has been really doing a really good job with the virtual fundraising ideas. And they did a Jamba Juice one a while back. And so I guess like another thing is just food and drinks, like, you know, that's always an incentive.
I really like that. Really good incentive. Kalia?
Yeah, I can talk about how the district has adapted and how you can utilize the resources we've created so far. We have released our summer fundraising guide, which has a lot of different resources for Thirst Project fundraising that you can find on the PNW Key Club issue. Also, just keeping in touch with the biweekly updates, we've released it through there. All of our resources can be found on our website, but we're also going to be releasing a new fall fundraising guide to be on the lookout for. And kind of like Roslyn mentioned, utilizing the Thirst Project Bingo Challenge, because we already have a bunch of different activities to help you fundraise for the Thirst Project laid out, and maybe working with your club officers to give people service hours for fundraising as an incentive to participate, or another incentive for your club to participate. So not only are you more involved with the district, but you're also helping out with a good cause.
I love that. That's amazing. What advice can you give to those who want to be more involved with the Thirst Project?
I think the absolute best way to get those interested in getting involved with the Thirst Project would be to have a representative from the Thirst Project come and speak to students at your school. We saw an incredible amount of students become very interested in helping out with the Thirst Project just by having someone come speak at the school. And so it was just incredibly impactful. So definitely I would recommend having someone come speak to students.
So my school's it's not a big school, and we were still able to raise $2,000, more than $2,000 for the Thirst Project. So I think that you should know that regardless of how small your school is, it can still have a large impact. And to know that you can push and you can push and you can give it your best shot and it will pay off. Because you just have to try, because you don't know what you can achieve until you try. And don't let the idea of failure hold you back. Because even if you donate $1 to the Thirst Project, even if you just raise $1, that still can help change someone's life.
I like that. That's great. I'll have now Lauren go.
Kind of adding on to what Joseph was saying, don't be afraid to reach out to the Thirst Project either, and especially the Road Warriors program, because it truly does bring it brings kind of an image of the Thirst Project to it. It's no longer this idea that just your president and your officers have been talking about to you. Now they're like physically there. They're showing you the videos and they're telling you about the statistics and things like that. And they're all such incredibly amazing, dedicated, and passionate people. And so I just really would say don't be ever afraid to reach out to them. And it can help a lot when you're trying to put a kind of like a face to what you're saying to your clubs.
Awesome. I'll have Rosalind go next.
Yeah, and just adding on to what Lauren and Joseph are saying, like outreach, I think is really important. Speaking from personal experience, like what drew me into Key Club, and what drew me into this entire organization was seeing the Thirst Project video. Like outreach can be really impactful when people know like what is going on and like the crisis and how easy it is to get involved. Like honestly, you can just post a story on your Instagram about the Thirst Project and that can reach a lot of people.
Okay, great. And then I'll have Kalia go next.
Similar to Joseph, I would agree that bringing Thirst Project Road Warriors to school is by far one of the most impactful ways to get them involved, because even to this day, I still hear people in my school talking about how impactful the Thirst Project Road Warriors were and how much they enjoyed the Thirst Project documentary that was played during the assembly. But also just keeping, like Mariana said, it really doesn't matter what size school or what type of school that you have. Really, anyone can fundraise for the Thirst Project. It's just about one person taking the initiative to do so, and then gathering people to join the movement.
I love that. That was such a great answer. All of your answers are so amazing. We will have a question and answer session. Participants, please kindly unmute yourselves, raise your hands, or go into the chat and ask more questions you'd like for our Thirst Project leaders to answer. We will try to get as many questions as possible, and we will conclude this period at 2:20 and start our Thirst Project activity. And I'll be looking through the chat. Does anyone want to unmute yourself or ask some questions? Okay.
Okay, what is the best possible fundraiser to run right now virtually? Okay, that's a great question, Sarah. So one of the clubs from my division, what they did is they actually had everyone make scrunchies, and so they figured out like a quick, easy way, make sure like you're not using the sewing machine or anything like that. And they pretty much had like everyone online make scrunchies in their school colors, kind of for spirit as you're going online for classes and everything like that. And they ended up actually selling these scrunchies, and all that money that they raised will be being donated to the Thirst Project. So that's a pretty kind of creative way of going about. And you can also do that like with masks and
I see a question in the chat that says, what is the most valuable thing you've learned from working with the Thirst Project? And that's something I really want to answer. And my answer to that is that anyone can create change. It's just about trying. And even with just take that first step, as scary as it is, as intimidating as it looks, anyone can create change as long as they take that step. Because the first step is the hardest step to take. And then after that, the rest of it comes easily, because then you get your support and you're not alone with taking those steps. So it's all about taking that first step and just knowing that regardless of what your success is, it's still success.
Okay, and then another question was, for those who did do fundraising during quarantine, how did you guys collect money? Does anyone
start by saying utilizing the PNW Key Club shop is the best way to collect money, because ultimately your school is going to have to turn in the money through PNW Key Club anyways. And I think just doing that directly, using a credit or debit card on the PNW Key Club shop on our website is the best way to collect money. And anyone who donates, it will go directly, we will give you the contribution for your club, since they have to put in your club's name and division anyways. And so if you're worried about collecting the money, it doesn't necessarily have to be physical, and then you can just utilize the PNW Key Club shop as long as you have the approval of your club and then also your school treasurer.
All right, I'm seeing a question about how could students promote the awareness of Thirst Project to their local community? And I think a great way to do that would be by taking advantage of local news sources. So you would start by maybe having a representative from the Thirst Project come and speak at your high school, or have a local discussion with different community members, and then have local community news sources like maybe a local newspaper or a school-based newspaper report on the event, because then you're just spreading more awareness for the Thirst Project.
Good, I love that. From Brian, how did you find out about the fundraising opportunity with C's Joseph?
Ooh, you know, our advisor, this is the C's Candy fundraiser, has been something that CHS has been doing for several years. Just this year, we're planning on doing it virtually and at a distance. But I can get that information from my advisor if you all would like, and I can email that to someone.
That sounds great. I'd recommend I'd recommend just sending it to Brian. Oh, you can share it to Kalia, looks like, also. And then from Julia, she says, what is the most valuable thing you've learned from working with Thirst Project? So I'll let everyone go. I'll have Joseph go first.
The most valuable thing I believe I've learned from Thirst Project is the power of, I guess, just information. I feel like a lot of times you can't really support an organization until you hear about what their cause is. And I've seen it firsthand just how engaged students are when hearing about the Thirst Project. So yes, I would say that information is powerful, I guess. I don't know.
No, that sounds good. I'll have Mariana go next.
I definitely want to echo that, because information is the key to success and to getting anything, getting anywhere. If you don't know, you ask, and the power of curiosity is really strong. Just ask questions, always be excited to ask and to learn. And that's also something that I learned through Thirst Project, because I asked more questions and I was able to learn more about how or what more we can do, because there's more that we can do. There's always something more.
I love that. That's great. I'll have Lauren go now.
I agree with both Mariana and Joseph. I really do think that before you can fundraise, you really do anything for any organization, you should really their message and find if it does speak to you, because you do have to make sure you're passionate about it. You don't necessarily want to be out there fundraising for something that you aren't passionate about, or maybe that not all of your officers are passionate about, because you'll be lacking the motivation to do better, to do more for them. So I would definitely encourage to find and value passion and the messages of whatever you're fundraising for.
Would you like to add on and say something, Rosalind?
Yeah, I guess I'm just echoing everyone else because I think a lot of us, if we hear something about like a water crisis, most of us are probably, if not all of us, are probably going to be like, wow, I need to do something, or like something needs to be done. So like, just what everyone's been saying about the power of education, and also what, like, touching on what Lauren said with motivation and like being passionate about things, like it's definitely important to bring in, like, I guess, personal motivations too, like, because if people aren't passionate about like maybe the event or like the entire like the event themselves, they might not want to participate as much. So like tapping into what also like members want to do for the fundraiser.
Sounds great. Kalia, would you like to say anything?
I would say I learned that it doesn't matter what your age is or where you're from, you really have the ability to take action and have a real impact, especially with the Thirst Project, because they give you the opportunity to do so, and because their mission is solely focused on young people. Even though I didn't previously have as much experience with fundraising as I did before I joined the Thirst Project, they really empowered me because of their mission and their values to take action, and also with the help of Key Club, just because of our joint efforts. And also within my school, that's not something that we've typically done. We tend to support a lot of local organizations, but even though the Thirst Project may be in a completely separate country, because of everyone's passion for the global water crisis, we were able to come together and do something successful.
I love that. That's amazing. I'll do one more question, and the question was, what are the most effective ways to fundraise and convince others to fundraise?
All right, I think that's a really good marketing question. It's about identifying who your target audience would be. Like, let's say if you want to target your fundraiser towards students, then maybe you would do some sort of maybe food-based fundraiser, because apparently all high schoolers just go crazy for food and when you're selling food. So it really depends on who you're trying to target, but really evaluating what desires and interests the people that you're trying to fundraise from have, that should help you have a successful fundraiser.
An example for that is that, so for the paper links through my high school, which was the most successful one we've had, that was competition based, and it was a competition between the classes, each grade. So whichever one raised the most got bragging rights, and they got extra points for the homecoming competition. So just find what your school is like based on, whether it's food or if they're, like, our school is a sports school, so they're really competition driven, and we just fan the flames and it'll work.
Would Lauren like to go next?
Yes, sorry. I think a great way to kind of keep people motivated too is to, I guess, kind of like also echoing Marianne a little bit, you just really do want to give them knowledge and keep them motivated to do and kind of like fight for the cause. And that's kind of all I have. But I do think that projecting that information will be really helpful for any future endeavor.
Very well spoken. Awesome. I'll have Rosalind go next.
Yeah, just also echoing what everyone else has been saying, and just reinforcing the idea of like personal motivation, because you can only do so much to like motivate like others to like act, but if information is given and people have their own personal motivations to do it, that's the most powerful thing.
Yes, definitely motivation is key. I'll have Kalia go last.
I would say having personal conversations with people is the best way to get them involved and to educate them about the Thirst Project. I would say every single time personal conversations have worked with me, whether it's having a personal conversation with your Kiwanis Club officers to help get them involved with your initiative. If it's having conversations with other organizations in your school, like DECA or leadership, then maybe they're willing to help out with your Thirsty 30 campaign, having personal conversations with people in your community, for example, like the Human Rights Education Institute. If you have a discussion with them, it's really just about talking to people, being honest, genuine, and with that, they're able to see the amount of passion that you have just because you're willing to sit down with them and talk about it, because of everything going on, the personal and ingenuity tends to get lost.
That's definitely true. I think passion will show through in seeing someone generally who they are. Thank you so much for your time, Joseph, Mariana, Lauren, Rosalind, and Kalia, for taking your time out and talking all about your experience with the Thirst Project. I'll hand it off to Kalia now.